In today's class, we are going to start with some doubt solving from Physics Chapter 2, Work, Energy and Power, Exercise 2A. So the first doubt which has been asked to me from Exercise 2A is question number 16. A body of mass m falls down through a height h. Obtain an expression for work done by the force of gravity. So work done by force of gravity is equal to force multiplied by displacement. Here the force is nothing but the force due to gravity, that is weight, and the displacement over here is the height. Weight can be written as mass into acceleration due to gravity and height as h. So work done by the force of gravity is nothing but mgh. That is question number 16's answer. Next doubt is question number 24. State two factors on which power spent by a source depends. Now power is work done upon time taken. So power depends on work done and time taken. More work done in less time, that means more power is developed. Explain your answer with examples. So if you want to give examples, you might want to check the textbook if they have given any appropriate examples. Yes, here are the examples. If a coolie takes 1 minute to lift a load to the roof of a bus, while another coolie takes 2 minutes to lift the same load to the roof of the same bus, work done by both the coolies is same, but the power spent by coolie A is twice the power spent by coolie B, because coolie A takes just half the time compared to coolie B, right? He does work at the double rate, that is half the time. So this example is good enough. Now use your imagination and creativity and take one more example like this. You can take example of one of the numericals, solved numericals we did. Let me show you here. This one. A boy of mass 40 kg climbs up a flight of 30 steps, and a girl of mass 30 kg does the same in 1.5 minutes. Compare the work done and power. So power developed by both is same, because they both are doing the different amount of work in different time, but the ratio of work and time is the same, that is power is same. So any example like this, not exactly that example, but I'm just showing you how you can build up example. Okay, so 24th also will be done by you. Next doubt somebody has asked me, question number 6. An electric heater of power 3 kilowatt, this one, is used for 10 hours. How much energy does it consume? Express your answer in kilowatt hour and joule. Okay, question number 6. So electric heater has power of 3 kilowatt. 3 kilowatt. It is used for 10 hours. So energy is equal to power into time. That is 3 into, sorry, let me write the units as well. 3 kilowatt multiplied by 10 hours. That is 30 kilowatt hours. This is the energy consumed. And we have to express the answer in joule as well. Now we know that 1 kilowatt hour is equal to 3.6 into 10 raised to 6 joules. Therefore, 30 kilowatt hour is equal to how many joules? That is 30 into 3.6 into 10 raised to 6 joules. Correct? So what is 36 threes are? 36 threes is 108. So 108 into 10 raised to 6 joule. or you can say 1.08 into 10 raised to 8 joules, right? 1.08 into 10 raised to 8 joules. It's perfect, absolutely perfect, both the answers. Understood? Okay, let's do the next question. Next question is question number 8C. Somebody asked me. Okay, I've actually discussed all these types of questions in my video in solved examples. I don't know how many of you see the full video and you check each and every method and then you ask me doubt, or do you even pay attention while I'm explaining it in the video before asking the doubts? I'm not sure, but I'm going to just, because this is a difficult situation for all of us, so I cannot judge that whether you are doing it properly or not. Even after sitting in my classroom, students ask me the same doubt which I've just taught in the previous class or just 10 minutes ago. So I don't blame you. It's okay, it's okay. I'm going to do my job, right? But this thing is pulling us back, this is slowing us down. Remember that next time you ask me. Now the question which I'm going to explain, that efficiency question, right? Efficiency question has been very nicely explained by me in solved examples. Still it has been asked to me. One more question somebody has asked me, actually many people has asked me, but this one, 13th question, also that similar question to that girl and boy who are climbing the stairs. Similar question again been asked to me. It's okay, I will solve it. A pump is used to lift 500 kg of water. Now I cannot directly solve the C1. You should understand the context. Without that, you cannot solve directly one question. So I have to solve the whole question for you. A pump is used to lift 500 kg of water. Mass is 500 kg from a depth of 80 meter in 10 seconds. From a depth of 80 meter and time is 10 seconds. Calculate the work done by the pump. Work done by the pump. Power at which pump works. Power at which pump works means output power. Output means the power which pump gives us. Are you sure about that? Power at which pump works. No, I think that is input power. The power at which pump works. The power which pump consumes. Yeah, so that could be one of the confusion. Input power. Power at which pump works. And the power rating of the pump, if its efficiency is 40%. So efficiency is given 40% and they are asking power rating. Power rating means power output. Power rating means power output. So these all things has been asked to us. And one more thing they have given us, the value of GS, 10 meter per second square. Correct? Let's solve this. Okay, so work done by the pump is equal to mgh. M is the mass of water, 500 kg. G is acceleration due to gravity, 10. H is the height by through which the water is raised. So 8 5s are 40, and then 1 2 3 4 zeros. This much joule of work is done. Can I write it in scientific form? So 1 2 3 4 5. 4 into 10 raised to 5 joules. This much work is done. Okay, power input. Power at which pump works and power rating of the pump if its efficiency is 40%. Now see, the pump is doing this work. That means if we have to find the power at which pump works, that should be the output power and power rating should be input power. So again, I think I was right initially, and I will change this thing. Again, let me tell you, power at which pump works, I am correct. It is the output power, and power rating is the input power. How much power you have to supply to the pump, that you have to find out. But first you need to find how much power the pump delivers. How much power the pump delivers, that is power output. So power output is equal to work output. Work output upon time. Output work is how much? This is the output work, right? So work output will be 4 into 10 raised to 5. And what about the time? Time is 10 seconds. So 4 into 10 raised to 4 watt. This is the power output. Let us check the answer. 4 into 10 raised to 5 or 40 kilowatt. That is perfect. 4 into 10 raised to 5 joule and 40 kilowatt. Perfect. So we are correct about one thing. Whenever they are asking the power at which pump works, that is power output. And whenever they are asking power rating, that is power input. And how do we find this? How do we find the power input? So we use the formula for efficiency. Efficiency is equal to power output upon power input into 100%. So I've used a similar formula for efficiency for work output upon work input. We can use the same formula for efficiency for power also. Okay, so efficiency is 40%, 40 upon 100 is equal to power output 4 into 10 raised to 4 upon power input 4 into 10 raised to आई एम सॉरी, मैंने कुछ तो गलती कर दी है. यस, power output is 4 into 10 raised to 4 upon power input, which we don't know. So therefore power input is equal to 4 into 10 raised to 6 upon 40, right? So this will become 10 raised to 5 watt. 10 raised to 5 watt is how much? 10 raised to 2 kilowatt or 100 kilowatt. If you solve this, you will get 10 raised to 5. So power input is 100 kilowatt. And what is the power output? 4 into 10 raised to 4. That is 40 kilowatt. So you are giving 100 kilowatt power to the pump, but it is supplying only 40 kilowatt to you. That means the efficiency of the pump is only 40%. So you must be wondering why the efficiency of this pump is less. Efficiency of any mechanical device is less. It is never 100% because some energy which is supplied to it is converted into some undesirable and non-useful form of energy such as heat, sound. So these energies cannot be utilized. So any pump or such device, whatever power you supply to it, it does not convert everything which you supply to it in useful form. Some of it is converted into non-useful form, and that is basically, wasted. So let us check the answer. The first answer is work, which is 4 into 10 raised to 5 joule. Then power output is 40 kilowatt and power input is 100 kilowatt. Absolutely correct. All the answers are correct. So if you want to solve the C part, you must understand this formula for efficiency, and you also should understand what is useful power and power output input. Useful power is power output and power input is the power rating of the pump, the question which they have asked. Okay, so now I hope it is clear. Let's move to the next question. Next question is the 13th question which has been asked to me. Question number 13. It takes 20 minutes for person A of mass 50 kg. Okay, so let me write here A. Okay, time taken by A is 20 seconds. And what is the mass of A? 50 kg. To climb up the stairs. While person B does the same height. ठीक है? While person B of same mass does the same in 15 seconds. So mass here also is 50 kg and does the same in how much? 15 seconds. Calculate the work done and the power developed by persons A and B. Calculate अलग से we have to calculate. अच्छा compare बोला, I'm not sorry. Not calculate, compare. Okay, so work done by A upon work done by B is equal to mgh upon mgh. Now both have the same mass, g is same, height is same, so work done by both of them would be the same, 1:1. Power developed by A upon power developed by B. Okay, so the work done by the first person and the second person is same, we just saw that. Okay, so mgh upon how much the first person is taking, 20 seconds. Work done upon time taken is power, right? And work done by the second person is also mgh, and how much time is he taking? 15 seconds, right? Okay, so this will become mgh would cut, so this would become 15 upon 20, 5 3s are 5 4s are 3:4. 3:4. This is the ratio of the power developed by both the person. This was very easy, son. 3:4, it is correct. Next question. A boy of weight 40 kg climbs up the 15 steps, each 15 centimeter high. Okay. Question number 14. Okay. 14th. A boy of weight 40 kgf climbs up the 15 steps, each 15 centimeter high in 10 seconds. Let me write it as boy weight 40 kgf. Weight is equal to 40 kgf. Climbs up 15 steps, each 15 centimeter high. So height is 15 centimeter and there are 15 steps like this. That is 225 centimeter is the height climbed by the boy. We can convert this into meter, 2.25 meter. In 10 seconds, time 10 seconds. And a girl of weight 20 kgf does the same in 5 seconds. So height climbed is the same, but the time is 5 seconds. Compare the work done and power developed by them. Take G as 10 Newton per kg. Okay, so here the value of G is 10 Newton per kg. Remember, whenever the value of G is 10 Newton per kg or 10 meter per second square, it's the same thing. 10 Newton per kg or 10 meter per second square. If you convert the values, Newton is kg meter per second square multiplied by per kg. So meter per second square only you are going to get. Whenever the value of G is 10, the weight becomes 40 kgf or 40 Newton. It's the same value, okay, which is equal to 40 Newton, and this is equal to 20 Newton. But this is only when the value of G is 10. Okay, let's find the ratio of the work done by them. Let me write it over here. Work done by boy upon work done by girl. Work done by boy is mass of the boy into acceleration due to gravity into the height. Work done by girl is mass into acceleration due to gravity into the height. Now mass into acceleration due to gravity is the weight, which is 40 for boy, and height is 2.25, the height which they climb. Here for girl the the weight is 20 and height is same, height gets cut. So the ratio becomes 2:1, right? The work done by them is in the ratio of 2:1. But what is the ratio of the power developed by them? Power developed by boy upon power developed by girl, right? So we can write here mgh upon T, the whole upon mgh upon T. Now see, we have already found the ratio of mgh. We have to find the time ratio of the time and simplify this. Okay, let's write it here. Okay, so mgh is 40 into 2.25 into time 2. Time 2 is this. This is time 2. This is time 1. Time 2 is 5 seconds. And mgh into T1. mgh for girl is 20 into 2.25 into T1 is 10. So 2.25 gets cut, 0, 0 gets cut, 2 2s are 4, 5 2s are 10, 2 2 also gets cut, and what you get is 1:1, right? So work done upon time taken is the power developed, and if you find separately also the power developed by boy and power developed by girl separately and then put it in the ratio, that also is fine. You will get the same answer, 1:1. That is the correct answer. Don't just copy this, try to understand the method with which I have solved. So 14th is done. The next doubt is question number 15. Let's see. Question number 15. A man raises a box of mass 50 kg to a height of 2 meters in 20 seconds. While another man raises the same box to a height in 50 seconds. Okay. Now this is person A, person B. The same box whose mass is 50 kg is raised to the same height by another person, but the time taken is 50 seconds. Compare the work done and power developed by them. Very easy. The work done by A upon work done by B. Okay, G's value is again 10 Newton per kg, right? So mgh, that is 50 into 10, 50 kg, yeah, so 50 into 10. See, earlier it was kgf, that's why we directly took it as 40 Newton. Okay, there is one mistake, one small mistake which I want to just point out. Here, there is one mistake I made. If you want to convert from kgf to Newton, yeah, that's what you need to do. So you multiply 40 by 10 and that becomes 400 Newton. And here the weight of the girl also becomes 200 Newton. 20 into 10, for value of G. And then when you put the values over here, 400 and 200, answer will be same. There is no change in the answer. Here also 400 by 200. 0, 0 is going to cut. Answer will be same. But that small mistake I had made. Actually, when the value of G is 10 meter per second square or 10 Newton per kg, 1 kgf is equal to 1 kg is equal to 10 Newton. Remember this. Correct? When value of G is 10 meter per second square or 10 Newton per kg, 1 kgf is 1 kg, which is equal to 10 Newton. But when the value of G is 9.8 meter per second square or 9.8 Newton per kg, then 1 kgf or 1 kg is equal to 9.8 Newton. Okay, so that's why we multiplied here with 10. So that one small clarification did not change our answer anyway, but still that clarification was necessary. So while solving questions, you come across these things. While teaching, it's difficult. You may or may not come across these things. So this is the mass, 50 into 10 into, sorry, this is the weight, m into g, into height, which is 2. Okay, again 50 into 10, the weight into 2. So the work done, the ratio of work done comes out to be 1:1. Work done by both of them is 1:1, which is correct. What about the power developed? PA upon PB. So 50 into 10 into 2 upon, what is the time? Time is 20 seconds. The whole upon power developed by B, that is 50 into 10 mgh into 2 upon time is 50. So this comes down over here, this goes up, so it will become 50 upon 20. Everything else will cut and will be left with 5:2. 5:2. That is the ratio of the power developed. Absolutely correct. Second thing they've asked is calculate the work done and power developed by each man. Take G as 10 Newton per kg. Okay, now we have to calculate separately the work done and power developed by A and B. Very easy. So work done by A is equal to work done by B. Both are equal. And how much is that? 500 multiplied by 2, that is 1000 joule. What about power developed by A? It is 50 into 10 into 2 upon 20. I'm just writing this numerator over here. Okay, so 0, 0 cuts, 2, 2 cuts, and 50 ones are 50 watt, and power developed by B is 50 into 10 into 2 upon 50, that is nothing but 20 watts. 50 watts and 20 watts. Absolutely correct. Power is correct and the work done is also correct. So I didn't see any difficulty in these questions. Okay, the next question. Next is question number 16. A boy takes 3 minutes to lift a 20-liter water bucket from a 20-meter deep well. Okay, so time is 3 minutes. Okay, the volume of water bucket, volume, is how much? 20 liter. Remember, liter is the unit of volume. And the height is 20 meter. That is, the depth of the well is 20 meter. That is the height. While his father does it in 2 minutes. Okay, so this information is for the boy. I will write boy, and here father does the same job in 2 minutes. Compare the work done power developed by them, work done by them, work done by boy upon work done by father, and power developed by boy upon power developed by father, and how much work each does. Okay, that is separately you have to find work done by boy and work done by father. Okay, what else? Take density of water as 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. Okay, density of water. I will tell you why we need this. Density of water is equal to 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube, and g, acceleration due to gravity, as 9.8 Newton per kg. Okay, now see, we have the volume of bucket. So we know there is 20 liter of uh, water we have in the bucket. So we have volume and we have density. You know formula for density? Density is equal to mass upon volume. So therefore mass is equal to density multiplied by volume. So what is the density? Density of water is 10 raised to 3. 10 raised to 3 kg per meter cube. And what is the volume? The volume is 20 liters. 20 liter. How to convert liter to meter cube? We have to convert liter into meter cube. See, now let's do this conversion first. 1 liter is 1000. I'm sorry. 1 meter cube is 1000 liters. So how many meter cube is 20 liters? 20 liters. How many meter cube is 20 liters? Right? So 20 into 1 upon 1000. That is 1 upon 50. Correct? 1 upon 50 is how much? 0.02. Right? 0.02 meter cube. So 20 liter of water means 0.02 meter cube of water. That also we have converted now. Okay, let's use this. So volume is 0.02 meter cube. So we will get 10 raised to 3 into 0.02 kg, right? Per meter cube and meter cube will cut and kg will remain. So this will become 20 kg. So we have got the mass of water. Now we can find the weight of water. So weight of water is equal to mass into acceleration due to gravity. Mass is 20 and acceleration due to gravity they have given as 9.8. So this is 98 into 2 or 196 Newton. Weight of water is 196 Newton. Okay. So we've just found the weight. Now the remaining things are still remaining. That is the work done by them, the ratio of work done by them, and power, the ratio of the power developed by them. Let's find the work done by them. Work done by the boy is mgh. Mg is the weight of the water, which is 20. 196 Newton. I'm sorry, not 20. 20 is the mass. 20 into 9.8, right? So 196 multiplied by the height, the depth of the well, which is 20 meter. So 196 twos is let's multiply. 196 twos 3920 joule. This is the work done by boy. What is the work done by the father? Same, 196 into 20. Same bucket of water he is lifting by the same height. So 3920 joule. So what is the ratio of work done by boy to work done by father? It will be 1:1. Okay, but what about the power developed by them? See, because boy takes 3 minutes and father takes 2 minutes. What is 3 minutes equal to? 3 into 60 seconds. 3 into 60 is how much? 180 seconds. And what about the father? 2 into 60, which is 120 seconds. Okay, so we can use this data again to find the ratio of the power developed by. So power developed by boy, I'll find it separately this time. mgh upon t, that is 3920, which is the work done by the boy, upon time, which is 180. Okay, so let's simplify this. By which table will it go? 2s are okay. Let's cut it with 2. 2 1s are 2. I think it will be 196. 2 1s are 2. 2 9s are 18. 196, correct. 196 by 9. Can it be cut further? 6 plus 1, 7 plus 9, 16 by 9. No. 16. No. It cannot be. Power developed by father. 3920 upon time is 2 minutes, which is 120. So 2, 196 are 2, 6 are 2, 196, okay, 2 98s are 2, 3s are 98 by 3. So the ratio power developed by boy upon power developed by father, 196 by 9 upon 98 by 3. 196 multiplied by 3 upon 9 into 98. 98 2s are 3 3s are 2:3. So the ratio of power developed by them is 2:3, but ratio of work done is 1:1, and each of them does the same work, 3920. Yeah, almost everything we have got. Let's check the answer. 3.92 kilojoule is 3920 joules. Work is 1:1, power is 2:3. Everything we have found out. Right? So all your doubts are clear till now. Let's move back to the chapter, and we have to start with the second part today, different forms of energy, and also its numericals. It's a long part. I target to finish this chapter in May. I wanted to finish one more chapter of physics and also some chapters of chemistry, but sadly we could not do it. Still we are working at a very good speed because we have covered a lot of syllabus of maths, so we can focus on now 3 chapters of physics. That is first 3 chapters. We are already on the second chapter, halfway there, and 3 chapters of chemistry before we finish the math syllabus. And then we go to maths, finish the syllabus for first term, come back to physics and chemistry, and by June end or by 10th of July we should be done with a good sizable syllabus of first term. But I don't know by then your schools will open or not open and how they are going to conduct exam. See, ICSE board exams are from, I think, from 12th of July. So before that, it is highly unlikely that they will call you to the school and take your exam. So all we are doing right now is preparing for your term exam. Okay, but the idea should be that we are preparing for boards, because boards are going to happen. Okay, board exams are going to happen anyhow. If we are concerned about term exams, then we should not be, because that's not guaranteed. When will it happen? How much syllabus will be there? So what school is doing, they are just getting rid of their work. They are completing their syllabus as fast as they can. So they have no work. When the schools open, they can directly take your test. Again, you have a lot of work to do, that is study. So let's just focus on the concept here. Let the school go ahead with their own speed. Let's not worry about what school is doing, because if we consistently worry about okay स्कूल में इतना हो गया, हम लोग इतना पीछे, इससे कुछ नहीं होने वाला, वो तो आगे जाने ही वाला है. Let's focus on what how much we are doing and how we are doing it, what is the quality. So that's why each and every doubt is being solved, right? uh, फिर भी अभी भी if you tell me, if you ask me, I'm not quite happy with doubt solving, because many of you have doubts in the extra worksheets, practice assignments, and I cannot solve those doubts because that's not the priority for me right now. My priority is to balance everything. So I have to teach you new chapters. I have to give you homework from those new chapters and solve their doubts like I did right now. I solved doubts of part A of chapter 2, physics, and also I have to take tests, correct those tests in time and give it to you. So all these work take a lot of time. That's why I'm not able to solve your doubts from those practice assignments. So what I suggest you is, what you can do is, you can make a separate folder in your computer for your doubts from practice assignments or wherever it may be, chapter wise. And whenever, when we are done with the syllabus, we can focus on those doubts, right? But right now I think we should focus on syllabus. So my target is at least 10 to 12 chapters of maths. Now you must be aware about maths, that we have already done 9 chapters till now, and so 10 to 12, three more maybe. Okay, and in maths, and in physics I want to do first 6 chapters, and in chemistry I want to do first 5 chapters. So that is a good sizable amount of syllabus till second week of July. If that we can achieve till second week of July, then after completing that much, we can again focus on some doubt solving. But till then, this rhythm should not be broken. That's why I will not pay attention to some things which are not absolutely essential at this moment. Your doubts from extra practice worksheets are not absolutely essential, because somehow, it'll take 5 to 10 minutes and that doubt will be solved. But if you gather it, we can solve it together. If you ask me one by one, it will be very difficult for me to uh, see that, which doubt to solve when. So let's go to the next part without wasting more time. Different forms of energy. So in this chapter, we are focusing on studying about mechanical energy and its different forms. So energy possessed by a body due to its state of rest or of motion is called mechanical energy. And it has two forms, potential energy and kinetic energy. The total mechanical energy of a body is the sum of its potential and kinetic energy. So what is potential energy? The energy possessed by a body at rest in its changed position or change in size and shape is called the potential energy. Let me redefine it in some more better understandable terms. I'm defining potential energy for you, redefining it for you. Potential energy is defined as the energy possessed possessed by a body due to its raised position above the ground or its changed configuration, that is size and shape. Potential energy is defined as the energy possessed by a body due to its raised position above the ground or due to its changed configuration, that is changed size and shape. Let's take some examples. So the first thing which I told about potential energy is the energy possessed by a body due to its raised position above the ground. So suppose this is the ground level, and on this ground level we have a table, and on this table we have kept an object. So this object is said to be at a raised position, and this object is at rest. So this object will possess potential energy, and this potential energy possessed by the object is due to its raised position, remember that, which is above the ground. Okay, so this object will be said to possess gravitational potential energy. So potential energy possessed by any body due to its raised position above the ground is which energy? Gravitational potential energy. Gravitational potential energy. Gravitational potential energy is the potential energy possessed by any object due to its position which is raised above the ground. Okay, let's take another example, that is changed configuration. What if this is a bow? What if this string of the bow is pulled and one arrow is held with the help of this pulled string? Okay, this is normal position of the string and this is the pulled position. What happens? As soon as you leave this pulled string, what happens? This arrow goes ahead. Correct? So what we are doing is we are storing potential energy into what? Into the bow, specifically into the string, pulled string of the bow. So the pulled string of the bow possesses elastic potential energy. So what is elastic potential energy? Elastic potential energy is energy stored, potential energy stored in any body by changing its size or shape, by changing its configuration, that means size or shape. So bow of the string of the bow possesses elastic potential energy. Similarly, spring, if you compress a spring or if you stretch a spring, stretched or compressed spring, stretched or compressed spring possesses elastic potential energy, right? If you compress a spring, what will happen? If you leave it after compressing, it will come back to its original position. So we had stored energy in it. If you stretch a string and then if you leave it, it will come back to its original position. We are storing elastic potential energy in it. If you raise an object above the ground level, what you are doing? You are storing gravitational potential energy into it. Okay, elastic potential energy may not be measurable at this moment. We are not talking about the formula for elastic potential energy, but gravitational potential energy definitely has a formula. It is a measurable quantity. Gravitational potential energy symbol is U, and its formula is mgh. Mass into acceleration due to gravity into height. You will tell me, sir, this is the same formula for work done by force of gravity on any object which is raised above ground. Yes, absolutely. When you do work in raising any object above ground, that same work is stored in that object in the form of gravitational potential energy. So yeah, that is the same work. The formula is also same. The value is also same. mgh. So potential energy, again, potential energy, one more thing I would like to specify. Many information I gave you. But one more thing about potential energy which I want to make very, very clear. Potential energy is always energy possessed by a body which is at rest. It is energy associated with body at rest. Energy associated with body at rest is known as potential energy, right? Cool. Okay, what else? So two types of energy we have studied, and okay, great. Okay, here in the last paragraph they've talked about something important which is carry forward over here. When a body of mass m is taken up from height h1 to height h2 above the ground such that h2 is greater than h1. So this is height h2 and this is height h1. Both are above the ground. A body is taken from this height to this height, right? What happens? It gains potential energy. It gains potential energy. How much potential energy does it gain? So I want to ask at this position, let's say this is position A. What was the potential energy of the body? mgh1. At this position B, what is the potential energy? mgh2. Which is greater? Now we know that h2 is greater than h1. Body is same, its mass will be same, position is same, so acceleration due to gravity will also be same. So since h2 is greater than h1, we can say that potential energy at point B will be greater than potential energy at point A, which means that mgh2 will be greater than mgh1. mgh2 will be greater than mgh1. Correct? But if a body of mass m falls down from a height h1 to height h2 above the ground, the loss in potential energy is initial potential energy minus final potential energy. So that's what they are talking about. The same thing, the difference in potential energy. Suppose this body again falls down from height h2 to h1. This will be, that is the difference in those potential energy, mgh2 minus mgh1. mgh1, that is mg bracket h2 minus h1. Difference in potential energy will become the loss in potential energy if the object falls down from final height to initial height again. Okay, so that is how potential energy is related. Next topic is kinetic energy. So what is kinetic energy? Now we have to derive the expression for kinetic energy also. Kinetic energy is energy possessed by a body due to its state of motion. Whenever a body is moving, it will possess kinetic energy. What is its symbol? K. Examples: fast moving stone has capacity of breaking a window pane on striking it, and thus it has kinetic energy. Car in motion, moving hands of clock, bullet fired from gun, rolling ball, apple falling from height, everything has kinetic energy. And what is the formula for kinetic energy? The formula for kinetic energy is Ke, kinetic energy, is equal to half mv square. Half multiplied by m, mass of the body, multiplied by v, square of the velocity possessed by the body. If a body has zero velocity, kinetic energy automatically will become zero. So body at rest will never have kinetic energy because its velocity is zero. If a mass of body is if mass of body is zero, then body will have zero kinetic energy. Actually, for any body, mass can never be zero. If a body is there, mass must be there, because any body is made up of matter and matter has mass. So mass can be zero is absurd, but velocity can be zero. If velocity is zero, then the body may possess potential energy. May, not must, but may. But if body has zero velocity, that is, it is at rest, its kinetic energy must be zero. Okay, now let us derive an expression for kinetic energy. So how to derive? What is the derivation? See, there is one more important thing they have told here. The kinetic energy possessed by a moving body is equal to the amount of work which the moving body can do before coming to rest. So kinetic energy of a moving body is the capability of that moving body to do work before coming to rest. And this idea we are going to use in deriving the expression for kinetic energy. Let us derive the expression for kinetic energy. Suppose a body is moving, suppose a body of mass m is moving with velocity v. The body is right now moving, okay? So we can say that mass of the body is equal to m. Initial velocity of the body is v. It is brought to rest by applying a constant opposing force F. So final velocity, because it is brought to rest, so final velocity will be 0. And what is the force which is applied on the body to bring it to rest? Opposing force, retarding force F. So opposing or retarding force is equal to F, which is applied on the body. Let A be the uniform retardation produced by the force, and body travels a distance s before coming to rest. Okay, so retardation, uniform retardation. What is it? A. And distance traveled by body before coming to rest. How much is the distance? S. Remember these things. If they ask you this derivation, you must write all these quantities before you can derive. You must write all these quantities, otherwise your derivation will be wrong. So mass of the body is m, initial velocity v, final velocity 0, opposing or retarding force F, retardation A, distance traveled by the body before coming to rest S. Okay, now let us start with the derivation. So the first point which they are making with the derivation is F, retarding force, is equal to mass into acceleration. That is, Statement number 1. We know just now we have studied here in this statement, kinetic energy possessed by a moving body is equal to the amount of work which the body is capable of doing before coming to rest. So kinetic energy of the body is equal to work done by retarding force in displacement S before stopping it. So kinetic energy is equal to work done by F in moving, not in moving, through the distance S, through a distance S. Work done by force F in nahi, just through a distance S. In moving a body through a distance S is also correct. Okay, so kinetic energy will become work done. What is work done? Work done is force into displacement. Force into displacement. And what is force? Mass into acceleration into displacement. Okay, so we have got three things for kinetic energy: mass into acceleration into displacement. Okay, now the formula for kinetic energy, which I just told you, it has mass, it has velocity square, it does not have displacement and acceleration. So somehow we have to convert this displacement and acceleration in terms of final velocity, initial velocity, right? So we can use the equation of motion. I hope you remember the third equation of motion from class 9th, chapter number 2, motion in one dimension. What is the relation? What is the third equation of motion? V square is equal to u square plus 2as. What is the final velocity? 0. What is the initial velocity? V square plus 2as. Great. So we have got one more thing here. Hey, I would like to write this little differently. This one, particularly this one. 2 multiplied by minus a multiplied by s. Why minus, you will ask me? Because the retardation is a. If retardation is a, then what is the acceleration? Minus a. You know that retardation is written with positive sign always, but the same retardation, the value of same retardation is written with a negative sign, right? Let's take it to the right side. Okay, so we will be getting 0 is equal to v square minus 2as, or minus 2as, sorry, plus 2as is equal to v square. Therefore, as is equal to v square by 2. Hey, we got the value of a into s, and that's what we were searching for here. So kinetic energy, which we wrote it as m into a into s, can be written as m into v square by 2, because a into s is v square by 2, which is half mv square. There you go, derivation is complete. You understood? So we considered a body of mass m moving with initial velocity v, acting upon constantly by a retarding force F and stopping it. So final velocity is 0, and the retardation produced by the retarding force F is a, and the distance traveled by the body before coming to rest is s. So what we wrote first is the value of retarding force, which is mass into acceleration. Then we wrote the relationship of kinetic energy, which is kinetic energy is the work which is the body is capable of doing before coming to rest. So work done by the force F in bringing it to rest through a distance s, that is the kinetic energy possessed by the body, right? Because due to that kinetic energy, that force has to do work to stop the body, right? So kinetic energy is force into displacement. We know the value of force, mass into acceleration. We put it here, displacement is over here, and we use the third equation of motion. V square is equal to u square plus 2as, but acceleration, sorry, retardation was a, so acceleration become minus a, and then we wrote it as v square is equal to minus 2as, so v square is equal to 2as, so as is equal to v square by 2. So kinetic energy is equal to mass multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement, which we wrote it over here, and acceleration into displacement is v square by 2, and that's how we got the value of kinetic energy, right? So that was the derivation, first derivation of class 10th, I think. Up to now there was no other derivation. There is one more very important thing which I would like to bring to your notice is this thing, the relationship between kinetic energy and momentum. Let a body of mass m be moving with velocity v, then its kinetic energy is half mv square and momentum is m into v. You remember momentum from class 9? Momentum is mass into velocity, kg meter per second. That is the SI unit. The symbol for momentum is p, right? If we compare them, if we simplify them, then we get a relationship. P square is equal to 2mk. The square of momentum is 2 times mass into kinetic energy, or P is equal to under root 2mk, or kinetic energy is equal to P square by 2m. So these two formulae, which one? These, this one and this one, these two formulae are very important, very important, the relationship between kinetic energy and momentum. Okay, there are two more cases they have taken. If a light body A of mass small m and a heavy body B of mass capital M both have same momentum, then the kinetic energy of the light body A will be more than the heavy body B. See, the kinetic energy of body A upon kinetic energy of body B we are comparing. So kinetic energy of body A is P square by 2m. They both have same momentum, okay? Their masses are different. The mass of body A is small m, mass of body B is capital M. So if we simplify that, we get capital M upon small m. That means the lighter body will have more kinetic energy and heavier body will have less kinetic energy. Always remember. If both bodies have same momentum, only then it is true. So we can relate the kinetic energies of two bodies with their masses also, but for that the momentum should be known. And case 2 is if a light body of mass small m and heavy body of mass capital M have same kinetic energy, then the heavy body will have more momentum than the light body. That is, if we know that both have same kinetic energy, and if you want to find the ratio of their momentums, then momentum of body B is under root of 2mk, and m is capital, heavy mass, heavy body is, B is heavy body, upon under root of 2 small mk, under root 2 and under root k will get cut, root of m by m we will get. That means momentum of heavy body is greater than the momentum of lighter body if they both have same kinetic energy. Okay, one more very important theorem is coming up, please pay attention here. Work energy theorem. When a force is applied in the direction of motion of a body, it accelerates the motion and thus increases the kinetic energy. Suppose you are doing work by applying force on a body which is already moving. This body is already in motion and you are applying force on that moving body. Okay, what will happen? Its speed will increase. Speed will increase. Why? Because the force which you have applied has done work on this body, and that work done has converted into kinetic energy which has been visible in the form of increased speed. So according to the work energy theorem, the work done by a force on a moving body is equal to the increase in kinetic energy. Whatever work you do on a body, whatever force you apply on a body, whatever work you do on a body, on a moving body specifically, it is equal to the increase in the kinetic energy of that moving body. So here they have given the proof of this. This is back-to-back derivations are there. Back-to-back derivations. This is the second derivation for you. Suppose a body of mass small m, suppose a body of mass small m is moving with initial velocity u. When a constant force F is applied on the body along its direction of motion. So body has mass m. Let me write it for you over here. Mass of the body is m. Initial velocity is u. Constant force which is applied on the body is F along its direction of motion. Okay, I will write here along its direction of motion, and it produces an acceleration a, and the velocity of the body changes from u to v. So it produces an acceleration of a in the body, and the final velocity changes from u to v. In moving a distance s, displacement is equal to s. Right? So these many quantities must be known before doing this. So if force is equal to mass into acceleration and work done by the force is force into displacement, we can write it as work done is equal to force into displacement, that is mass into acceleration into displacement. Again, using the third equation of motion, we can now find the value of displacement and put in the place of s. Right? When we put it in the place of s and solve it, we get, when we simplify and solve it, we get half mv square minus u square. That is half mv square minus half mu square. So what is this half mv square? Final kinetic energy of the body. And what is this half mu square? Initial kinetic energy of the body. So the work done by the force which is applied on a body of mass m, due to which the velocity of the body is changing from u to v, is equal to the difference of final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy, half mv square minus half mu square. Then from the equation, work done is equal to final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy. So work done on the body is equal to increase in kinetic energy. Forms of kinetic energy. A body can have three types of motion, namely the translational motion, rotational motion, and vibrational motion. So the kinetic energy is also of three types: translational kinetic energy, rotational kinetic energy, and vibrational kinetic energy. Translational kinetic energy is the energy possessed by a moving body which is moving in a straight line. For example, car moving in a straight line, freely falling body, molecule of monatomic gas has the translational kinetic energy, because that also moves in a straight line, randomly but in straight line. Rotational kinetic energy is the energy possessed by the body which is doing rotational motion. Right? For example, spinning top, rotating wheel, rotating fan. Earth rotating in its own axis also has huge amount of rotational kinetic energy. The atoms in a diatomic or polyatomic molecule rotate about a fixed axis in addition to their translational motion. So they possess both rotational and translational kinetic energy. This question might be asked to you in exam. Give example of a body which possesses both rotational as well as translational kinetic energy. You will write this much. the atoms in a diatomic molecule. We will study about this in chemistry, don't worry about that. The example of this is oxygen, O2, diatomic. So both the oxygens rotate about their fixed axis in addition to their translational motion. So they possess both rotational as well as translational kinetic energy. Vibrational kinetic energy. If a body moves to and fro about its mean position, the motion is called vibrational motion. And the kinetic energy of the body due to its vibrational motion is called vibrational kinetic energy, or simply vibrational energy. Right? For example, wire clamped at both ends when struck in the middle vibrates. The energy possessed by the wire is vibrational kinetic energy. A steel strip clamped at one end vibrates when the other free end is slightly displaced and then released. जैसे तुम्हारे गिटार का वायर होता है, गिटार की स्ट्रिंग्स, उसको तुम प्लग करोगे, it will vibrate. In a solid, the atoms vibrate about their mean positions. So they possess vibrational kinetic energy. In a polyatomic molecule, फिर से वही example दे रहे वो लोग, atoms can vibrate about their mean position. So polyatomic molecule has vibrational energy in addition to rotational and translational energy. तो polyatomic atom के पास सारी टाइप की एनर्जी होती है, vibrational, rotational and translational kinetic energy. Depending upon the state of motion, a moving body may possess either one or more than one form of kinetic energy simultaneously. For example, a rolling ball and wheel of a running vehicle have both rotational and translational kinetic energy simultaneously. So they have given you the differences between potential energy and kinetic energy here. Potential energy is the energy possessed by body due to its change position or change size and shape. Kinetic energy is energy possessed by a moving body. Potential energy is equal to the work done in bringing the body to its change state, and kinetic energy is equal to the work done in moving body to bring it to rest. Right? If work is done in changing the state, changing the position of the body or configuration of the body, then the energy stored in the body will be potential energy. And if the work is done on the body in stopping it from the moving position to rest position, if we are bringing it from motion to rest, then the work done on it will be stored in it as kinetic energy, or the work done which is required to stop it is equal to its kinetic energy. Potential energy can change only in form of kinetic energy, and kinetic energy can change to any form. So potential energy can convert, but it can convert to kinetic energy only, not in any other form. But kinetic energy can convert into any other form, like heat, like sound, like light. Absolutely. Potential energy does not depend on speed of body. Kinetic energy depends on speed of body. So this is like detailed differences between both potential and kinetic energy. Conversion of potential into kinetic energy. Suppose a stone is there at a certain height. If it falls down, what happens? Because the stone was at a certain height, it possessed potential energy. And when it started falling down, all its potential energy slowly started converting into kinetic energy. And just before striking the ground, it will have maximum velocity. So it will have maximum kinetic energy. Right? So just before striking, if it has maximum kinetic energy, then what does it do on striking? It makes a loud sound, right? And if you notice, there is also a small amount of heat which is developed at the lower part of the stone, which strikes the ground. So that kinetic energy has converted itself into heat and sound energy. A wound up watch spring has elastic potential energy, which is equal to the work done in bringing it to the wound up state. As the spring unwinds itself, the potential energy stored in it converts into kinetic energy, which does work in moving the hands of the watch and thus changes into kinetic energy of the hands. When string of the bow is pulled, I gave you an example about bow. Some work is done which is stored in the deformed state of the bow in the form of elastic potential energy. On releasing the string to shoot the arrow, the potential energy of the bow changes into kinetic energy. So these are all the examples of conversion of potential energy into kinetic energy. And the last one is about compressed spring. If you compress a spring and release it, the potential energy stored in it changes into kinetic energy, which does work. Okay. Different forms of energy. We are going to study different forms of energy and their sources. Very simple theoretical piece. Solar energy. Can you tell me from where solar energy is obtained? From sun, right? But directly it cannot be used because it is too diffused and not always available uniformly. But there are so many devices which can convert solar energy into useful form. Solar panels, solar furnaces, solar cells, right? They have all have been invented to make use of solar energy. Solar panel has got black painted metal surface which absorbs sun's energy and heats water in its contact. Solar furnace has parabolic mirror and it is used to focus the sun's rays on small area so that high temperature is achieved. So by keeping the water at the focus of the mirror, water can be boiled to produce steam, and steam can then be used to drive the turbine of an electric generator so as to obtain electrical energy. Solar cells are used to convert solar energy directly into electrical energy. These cells are made of thin slices of semiconducting material like silicon. However, the efficiency of solar cell to convert solar energy into electrical energy is very low. So they are used in your calculators where very small amount of electricity is required. Heat energy. Energy released on burning of coal, oil, wood or any fuel for that matter. Steam obtained on heating water possesses heat energy and it has capacity to do work. In a steam engine, heat energy of steam is used to obtain work. Sun is also source of heat energy. We on earth receive heat energy directly from sun. Light energy. It is a form of energy in the presence of which other objects are seen. Natural source of light energy is sun. Moon reflects the sunlight at night. Many sources such as fire, burning candle, they also give light energy along with heat energy. सब थियरी है, मुझे सिर्फ पढ़ना पड़ेगा तुम्हारे लिए. तुम आइज क्लोज करके आराम से सुनते जाओ मेरा लेक्चर. बहुत इजी है सब, कोई इसमें कोई डिफिकल्ट चीज नहीं. कुछ डिफिकल्ट रहेगा तो मैं डिस्कस करूंगा, ठीक है. द एनर्जी possessed by fossil fuels such as coal, petroleum, natural gas is called chemical energy or fuel energy. These fuels contain chemical energy stored in them. When fuels are burned, chemical energy converts into heat and light energy. Food that we eat also contains chemical energy. Plants convert solar energy into chemical energy of food during the process of photosynthesis. A battery has chemical energy stored in it and it provides electrical energy when in use by chemical reaction which takes place inside it. So they have given example of chemical energy stored in fuels, in food, in battery, so many places. Hydro energy, energy possessed by fast moving water is called hydro energy. This energy is used to generate electricity in hydroelectric power station. For this, water is stored in the dams at certain height and water from the dam is allowed to fall down through pipes, and the kinetic energy of fast moving falling water turns the turbine and this turbine drives the generator and generator produces electrical energy. Electrical energy is when two bodies are rubbed together, they get charged due to the movement of free electrons, charged particles from one body to another body. So they possess electrical energy. In electric cell, due to movement of ions from one electrode to another electrode within the cell as a result of chemical reaction, it becomes a source of electrical energy. Nuclear energy, the energy released due to loss in mass during the processes of nuclear fission and fusion is called nuclear or atomic energy. In both these processes, the loss in mass gets converted into energy in accordance with Einstein's mass-energy relation, E is equal to mc square. This energy is used in nuclear reactors for the constructive purpose to produce electrical energy and is used in atom bomb for destructive purpose to produce heat and other form of energy so as to destroy the enemy in the war. So nuclear energy is very dangerous that way, but it is put to constructive use in atomic power plants where some mass of the atoms are destroyed and gets converted into a tremendous amount of energy which is used to generate electricity. But we know Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the atom bomb which was dropped on them, on Japan by the Americans, and it created a huge disaster, nuclear disaster. Geothermal energy, the energy released in nuclear disintegration in the interior of Earth, gets stored deep inside the Earth and it's called geothermal energy. This energy heats up the underground water to produce the natural steam. Sometimes the natural steam may burst out from the surface of Earth as hot springs. The electric power companies may drill wells into the earth to trap the natural steam, which may be used to run turbine of generators and to produce electricity. So there is a lot of energy stored inside the earth also. Due to nuclear disintegration or due to sulfur deposits, this energy can be converted into useful form by by making use of certain devices. You will study this maybe, I don't know, in 10th you don't have this in detail, just this much. In CBSE they have this whole topic in very much detail, but if you are still much interested, you can go to YouTube, and there are so many videos and you can see them about any form of energy you wish to study more about. Wind energy, the energy possessed by the fast moving air, is called wind energy. It is used in driving windmills. In past, for many years in rural areas, windmills were used to pump out the underground water and to grind grains. Nowadays, large giant windmills are being used to drive turbine of electric generators for producing electricity. Sound energy, a vibrating body possesses sound energy. It is sensed by our ears. When disturbance produced by vibrating body in the atmospheric air layers reaches our ears and produces vibrations in the ear membrane, sound is heard. Magnetic energy, the energy possessed by a magnet due to which it can attract ion filings, is called magnetic energy. An electromagnet has magnetic energy. Self-explanatory, right? You don't need any supportive you can say commentary. If you read it, you understand it. The energy possessed by a body due to its state of rest or motion is called mechanical energy, the first type of energy which we studied in this particular part of the chapter. A body at height, a moving body, a stretched bow, they all have mechanical energy. Then conversion of one form of energy into another. In our day-to-day life, the energy which is available to us in the form which it is available, it is not useful always. So we must convert energy which is available to us in its native form to a useful form using some energy converters. So what are energy converters? So if you want to convert mechanical energy into electrical energy, so what do you use? You use a dynamo or a motor. So dynamo converts mechanical energy into electrical energy, and motor converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. Suppose water stored in reservoir of a dam, it has a lot of potential energy. When it flows down, this potential energy converts into kinetic energy, and kinetic energy gets converted into mechanical energy, which rotates the turbine, which ultimately gets converted into electrical energy. So electric generator or dynamo converts mechanical energy into electrical energy, right? Similarly, they have given this small pictorial flow chart kind of a diagram which shows that how one form of energy can be converted into another form using suitable converting devices. Electric iron, thermocouple, loudspeaker, microphone, charger, cell, candle, sun for that matter, uh, lighted electric bulb, photo cell, these all are energy converters which convert energy from one form to another. Okay, so what I want you to do is just read this page, page number 36. It will give you information about all energy converters. All are very simple. If you have any doubts, just let me know. I can explain, read out to you like a lorry right now and you can go to sleep. ओके तो यहाँ तक है, प्लीज इसको पढ़ लो. अच्छा, इसमें एक चीज है विच आई शुड टेल यू स्पेसिफिकली. इसमें you have to understand that whenever mechanical energy changes from one form to another, it always there is some amount of energy which is lost, which is degraded energy. पहले ये पढ़ते हैं, whenever mechanical energy changes to other forms, it is always in the form of kinetic energy and not in the form of potential energy. The stored potential energy first changes into kinetic energy and then kinetic energy changes into other form. हाँ, ये तो पढ़ लिया. Degraded energy, while transformation of energy from one form to another desired form, the entire energy does not change into desired form, but part of it changes into some undesirable form, usually heat due to friction, or a part of it is lost to the surrounding due to radiation, which becomes useless. This conversion of energy into undesirable or non-useful form is called dissipation of energy. Since this part of energy is not available to us for any productive purpose, so we call this part of energy as a degraded form of energy. Examples: when a bulb is lighted using electrical energy, a major part of it is lost in the form of heat energy. Only a small part converts into the useful light energy. When a vehicle is run by using chemical energy of its fuel, a major part of it is wasted in the form of heat and sound energies. Only a small part of chemical energy changes into useful mechanical energy. ठीक है. सो दैट वाज, सिर्फ मैंने तुम्हें 2 पेज दिए, 36 और 37 में कुछ थोड़ा सा पार्ट है एनर्जी कन्वर्टर्स का, तुम्हें पढ़ना है और उसके ऊपर से यू हैव टू राइट दीज थियोरेटिकल आंसर्स. आई एम श्योर इट विल बी ईजियर. अच्छा, तुम्हारा होमवर्क क्या है? एक्सरसाइज 2B का थियोरेटिकल क्वेश्चंस, दैट इज अप टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 30. न्यूमेरिकल्स नहीं करना है, न्यूमेरिकल्स बहुत सारे 23 न्यूमेरिकल्स हैं, ये सारे मेरे सॉल्व एग्जाम्पल्स करने के बाद तुम करोगे. ठीक है, तो ये टाइम लगाने वाला है ये पार्ट, ये चैप्टर. ठीक है, तो एक्सरसाइज 2A का थियरी तुम्हारा होमवर्क है एंड आई एम गोइंग टू सी यू इन द नेक्स्ट वीडियो. ऑलराइट, बाय बाय.